Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show. And there's no your chips are today. It doesn't feel the same kind of energy today. In fact, I feel a little bit exhausted, even arguably more so than the Wolves game, just because Arsenal do what they always seem to do and make things a hell of a lot harder than they need to. And that's how today's ending felt. It was a really good performance offensively, but defensively, we've got a lot to discuss. But I hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. Hope you enjoyed your weekend. Manchester City, thank you so much. Much appreciate that. That's cemented Arsenal's place in fourth for now. Arsenal currently sitting in fourth with a significant number of games in hand over their opponents as well, which is absolutely fantastic. In fact, Arsenal have played 25 games now and on 48 points. Man United sitting on 47, but having played 28. West Ham United 3 points behind us, having also played 3 games more than us. Spurs sitting 6 points behind Arsenal, having played the same amount of games, and they play Everton tomorrow at home. So fingers crossed Everton can do us another favour. And Wolves lost again and now sit, having played 2 more games than us, a whole 8 points behind us. So it's looking pretty darn good. In fact, what I say I like to do after Manchester United lose and Spurs lose and other teams lose, have a look at other teams' percentage chances. And today's results have meant that Arsenal's percentage chance of achieving top four has gone up to 66%. Man United's gone all the way down to 12% that they have now to get top four. So with Arsenal having games against Spurs, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea still to go, big games that we've still got, but we've got some really, really solid fixtures that hopefully we can get wins in against Leicester next Sunday it is. And then we play Liverpool, of course, which is just frustrating because we're having to play 3 games in the space of 7 days. That's going to be a really critical part of the season where, fingers crossed, we can hopefully get the results that we need. I'd snap your arm off for a draw. I really would against Liverpool. Anything against Liverpool would be huge in our chances of getting top 4, would be massive. A win. Wow, I might lose my head. I definitely would lose my head. Anyway, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat box. This is what this Raw Reaction show is all about, how you guys feel. Evening, Harvey. Good evening to you, mate. Getting in first in the chat box. Lovely stuff. Pinywing, good evening or morning, or wherever you happen to be in the world. Sam says, Odegaard, I love him so much. Please have my baby. So speaking for me, there is Sam. Loving that. Marcus says, hi, Tom. Managed to watch the first 20 minutes and a bit to the second half. Great going forwards, but shaky at the back. Yeah, I have to agree with you, mate. Absolutely so. Greg says, I do love winning. My pride in the team increases with every win, even when our defense is, in this case, rather suspect. Yeah, it was rather suspect. I mean, let's talk about Ben White. Ben White's had such a good season. And I just think that these performances from a 23-year-old centre-back are going to happen. And thank goodness they happen in a game that we can get that win, and we can make sure that the offensive part of our team kind of makes up for the defensive errors. And I thought that Ben White probably had one of his worst games of the season. But as I say, just thankfully, we're in a situation where the young attackers are making up for that. Ramsdale as well, I thought was quite poor. His distribution was really shaky. And I said this on the Arsenal Ways reaction show. I feel like with Ramsdale, if he concedes early in a game, his head kind of goes a bit. He has a lot of pride in getting clean sheets. And when he loses that clean sheet, sometimes his head can drop. And that's something I think that needs mentally to be instilled into him. As a young goalkeeper, you would come to expect these types of things. But I think we can all agree that it's that element of his game that means that we probably need to work on that mental side for sure. But the new Ben White song, as Pablo Mira says, is absolute class. that is for sure. Wilson says Odegaard, Martinelli and Saka were absolutely outstanding. Omar saying Odegaard has fully made me eat my words. And that's what we want to see, is when we're wrong about things in Arsenal, is that it's to the benefit of Arsenal Football Club. And that's certainly what Odegaard is proving a hell of a lot of people wrong. A hell of a lot of people, rather enjoyably so as well. DMC says, hi, Tom. I'm optimistic that we'll get points against Liverpool. I'd love to have your optimism. I really, really would. But they are an unbelievably good team. Robin says, what I can say is that what was a great result, but a shocking, sloppy defensive performance. We should caveat this. It wasn't a bad performance overall. defensively is where it certainly could have been better. And specifically with a number of players at the back, Tierney, White, Ramsdale. I thought Cedric was decent in the first half. Second half, I thought he fell away. I thought that Gabriel was actually good. I thought Gabriel had a good game and kind of made up for a lot of the mistakes that White and Tierney were having. I think that Partey was good in the game as well. I didn't think Xhaka was as good today as he was against Wolves. I thought that kind of level of performance wasn't quite there from Xhaka. And then the front four were just brilliant. I say brilliant. Martinelli had a pretty quiet first half, to be fair, but came more alive in the second to get his goal as well. George says Ben White was really good, other than the second goal. I'm not as confident, George. There was a couple of times I thought his movement and positioning was a little bit off, not like it has been of late. And that mistake that did lead to the goal is pretty big. That is one of the big problems about a performance, is that one moment can overshadow what was usually an okay performance, but there were other issues in his game to highlight as well. Maggie says, simple solution, Tom. We never, ever concede a goal. And look, when it comes down to our defensive record, Matt, we know that this season we have been really solid at the back. And it's only in these few games with a couple of little mistakes that are always going to creep into our game. Gabriel, of course, the one against Wolves, and Ben White today against Sissoko. Thankfully, they're happening in games that we're winning, and they're not happening in games that are costing us points. And that's really key. Okay, let's talk about what we all want to get talking about. You know, Ødegaard's, Bukayo Saka, those two in particular were absolutely on fire and glorious to watch. Ødegaard just does something different every game that just kind of makes you think, wow, how lucky we are to have him as a player at our club. And I look at the pass to the Saka, to set up Saka to then assist Ødegaard for that first goal. And you're like, some players have got the ability to do that little touch. But it's that then instinct to do that touch and to then get into the right position to get the ball back again. And, you know, against Brentford, he had a really good chance to score and missed it. And obviously Raya pulled off a very decent save, but Ødegaard made it possible for Raya to save it quite comfortably. He learned from that moment clearly, because the finish against Watford today was absolutely perfect, and exactly what you want from a player in that position is finishing off those chances. And Ødegaard did that. But there were some flicks, the little touches, the pressing. The difference between Ødegaard and Mesut Ozil and Santi Cazorla, because he's kind of playing in this hybrid role that Ozil and Santi Cazorla would play. And I think there's a lot of similarities between Ødegaard and those players. He's not exactly like them, but, you know, he's got characteristics of both. But the one thing that he does that they didn't is the energy and the pressing. Ozil would run. Ozil would run all day long, and he put up some of the biggest running stats that there are. But it's the application of where that energy goes, where Ødegaard deviates from Ozil, and where that's the element of his game that you can just tell Mikel Arteta loved in his profile. It's the energy, it's the pressing, it's the never say die attitude. All of those things encompass what Mikel Arteta wants from a player, and Ødegaard just encapsulates all of those traits in his game. And we saw all of those on display today, and that was absolutely key in winning. Speaking of Bukayo Saka as well, there was a big debate. And I say big debate because some people said, what debate? There wasn't really a debate over who starts on the right, but there was people suggesting and asking for Nicolas Pepe to play at right wing. And we discussed this on the preview show. Alex put him in his team that he wanted to see. And to be honest, when he said that he wanted Pepe to be in there, he said it's not because Saka's been poor, it's just because of giving an opportunity to Pepe. But Saka showed why and how undroppable he is in this Arsenal team, and how you can't drop Saka at this stage. He can have a few off games, and, you know, against Wolves, he wasn't amazing. He didn't have his best game against Wolves. But the thing is that in these types of fixtures where he just is on it and he's just ticking over and playing to his absolute maximum, that's when you see the Bukayo Saka that's now got, what, I want to say 13 goal contributions this season. And when you consider the fact that we talked on the last show about what he needs to do more of, he has 5 assists in the Premier League and 8 goals, I think. He's 2 away from matching Nicolas Pepe's best Premier League goal-scoring season. And he's got 4 more assists than Pepe got in that Premier League season as well. He's played about 2 and a bit games worth more of minutes by this point, but he is absolutely justifying the faith that is being paid to him. And you can't say much more than that. And he absolutely justified the pick. And Mikel Arteta should also be praised for sticking with him. Let's go into the chat box then and see what you're saying about these two. Omar says, is it me or has Ødegaard bulked up this season? He isn't pushed off the ball anymore. It certainly seems that way. He's worked on that. His physicality has seemingly improved. Hit the like button in the chat box. Billy Wayne says, if you hit the like button, they'll aim to be first next time because, you know, you've been beaten today. Fantastically so. Pablo says, honestly, guys, third is still achievable. Why not push it as far as we can? I don't think they're going to. I don't think there is any mindset where they're just looking at fourth. I think they're looking at the next game and the next game only, worrying about playing that game, trying to get a win in that fixture, and then seeing where it puts us by the end of the season. Let's see where we are. Because, look, if we win our games in hand and one of them is against Chelsea, then we go above Chelsea in the table. But Chelsea are a very good side. They just absolutely blitzed Burnley in the second half, and they can do that to teams. They can struggle, and they've shown that. Games against, trying to think off the top of my head, games where they dropped points. Southampton, did they drop points too? They've dropped points this season. And, you know, we need to be there when they're having their lulls and having their periods in games where we can take advantage. So when we play Chelsea, when that game finally gets rearranged, there's no one saying that we're not going into that game with hope that we can get a result. There's no free hits. Liverpool's not a free hit. Chelsea's not a free hit. We need to try and get a result if we can. If we don't, there is an understanding, you know, because they're better teams than us. They spent a hell of a lot more money than us. They're at a higher standing and a higher expectation than us. But if we can get a result, it would be brilliant. Anyway, let's jump into the chat box a little bit more and get some more of your thoughts. Edrasaz says, these players looked like they had a plan when they pressed. When Eddie came in, you could see the difference. He wasn't pressing and was late to the ball. This is a really important point because it talks and it details the issues that we have when we're winning a game and we need to make changes in the final third. Mikel Arteta has got down what he needs to do defensively. Rob Holding comes on, we go to a back three and we sit, and that's fine. Like, you can do that at Anfield and you get a result, and we did that. But you need to think about what you do in the final third. And Nicolas Pepe is great when he comes off the bench when you're chasing a game, when you need to try and get a goal. And he proved that against Wolves. But when you're in a game where you need to hold on to points, he isn't the best option to bring off the bench. In fact, I probably would have rather have seen Nuno Tavares come on for a Saka or for a Martinelli and go play slightly ahead of Tierney or slightly ahead of Cedric, just to have someone who's a little bit more defensively adept playing in that role. And if you remember, Arsene Wenger used to do that a lot with Kieran Gibbs and Nacho Monreal. He would play them at the same time towards the end of games to see games out. Nicolas Pepe is not the type that you want to come off the bench in those scenarios. He's the type that you want to come off the bench when you need a goal, and he proved that against Wolves. But today, when both Laka and Gabriel Martinelli came off, we lacked a little bit in the final third to really kind of see out the game. And that led, of course, to them getting well into it and nearly equalising. And they had enough opportunities. Dennis missed a huge chance. And Sissoko put his away. And Nketiah did hit the post, to be fair to him, but that was really the only thing that he was able to do during the game and get a yellow card as well. So we need to consider that as well in the summer transfer window when we look at the players that we're signing. Are we doing enough to flesh out the squad so we can tackle every different scenario that might come and face us next season? That's really important. Omar says, I'm watching Tom's favourite player in Fabian Ruiz against Milan in a big game in the title race, and he has been quiet so far. Chris says, I thought Partey's level was up there with Ødegaard and Saka today, particularly with Xhaka playing higher up the pitch. It's really just Partey and Ødegaard dictating the pace. Partey has been one of our best players in 2022. I don't think that's up for debate, to be honest. He has been as good as anyone else this year so far, and I'm very happy with his performance. Tom says, the passing for our goals was utterly delightful with great finishes to boot. Chef's kiss. Yeah, great way of describing it. Coop Dog says, do you think Arsenal can challenge for the title next season? No, I don't. I'm going to be very, very flat out with you. I don't think we can compete for the title. Do I want us to be able to in the near future? Absolutely. But realistically, no, I don't. I think City and Liverpool are way ahead of us. way ahead of us. And we've got to change a lot more in this side if we want to try and get to that level. But, we're on the path of improvement. We're on a path of progress. And that's where we want to be. King, you're absolutely right. Another penalty not given. Lacazette was 100% fouled from behind in the box. And it's a blatant and obvious penalty that we wasn't given. It's becoming a weekly thing. It's not becoming. It is a weekly thing that we don't get these big decisions. And that could have been crucial. We could have gone, 4-1 up at that point? Absolutely killed the game. No chance of Watford coming back. It's a big, big decision that they've not taken it in the right way at all. Matthew says, Tom, when will the Spurs game be rescheduled? I imagine it may be rescheduled closer to the end of the season. The reason why I say that is because I think that the TV companies may take a look at that and grab hold of that as a top 4 decider in the billing. And so I think they may look to schedule that a little bit later on. We'll wait and see. But it's going to be a huge game. We all know that. I don't need to tell you that. Najee says, Tom, how long before Arsenal are linked with Cucho Hernandez? It's probably links already out there, mate, to be honest. Latvian Gooner says, Arteta had an assist on the score sheet for today. Yeah, look, it's quick thinking. I'm not going to go overboard and say that he's worthy of getting onto the getting any points in fantasy football or anything stupid like that. But hey, he did absolutely brilliant to, throw the ball quickly to Saka and move through. But I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, sign him up on a contract, get him on a pay-as-you-play deal. Because, he did what he did, and it was great. And, we can enjoy that comedy that's associated with it. But there you go. Timmy says, Tom, talk about Martinelli's glorious goal. You can't talk about Martinelli's glorious goal without talking about Martin Odegaard's touch to Lacazette. That you watch that over and over and over again, and there's just not many players on the planet that can do that. That can just clip the ball like he did. And Lacazette done really well yet again to set up another chance. And Martinelli's finish is just world class. It is absolutely what you want from a finish. And that's what he's needed to add to his game. A little bit of ferocity, a little bit of cutting edge, a little bit of more threat. That's what Martinelli's needing. That's what he needs in his game. And look, if he wants to stay here forever, like he says that he wants to, I'm more than open to open the doors to him to have a future at Arsenal into the long term. But yeah, absolutely. Alex, though, disagrees, says, I don't think it was enough for a penalty, and neither does Omar. I disagree. I think he comes at it from behind, and there's enough contact to send him over, and I think that it's a penalty, personally. Just my view. Afsar says, Tom, can we cope with Champions League football? Are we ready? Are we ready with the current squad? No. Is this going to be the squad if we qualify for the Champions League? No. We're going to add players. We're going to improve this squad. Look, we've beaten Wolves twice this season. We've beaten Spurs this season. We've gone to Anfield and got a clean sheet this season in the League Cup semi-final. We've been able to get results in big games. We were unfortunate at Old Trafford, and Arteta's got a win at Old Trafford for the first time since 2006. He's brought in a young group of players that are only improving. There's a clear style of play we can now see. I don't think anyone can really have a debate about, does Arsenal have a style of play? Because I'm sorry, but it's so clear and obvious what we're trying to do in the wide areas with the way that Martin Odegaard is playing in this hybrid 8-10 kind of role on the right-hand side. Xhaka's being pushed up on the left. Partey's now being given these extra responsibilities in the middle. And Lacazette, whilst we don't have a prolific striker, is acting as a bit of an anchor up top and a bit of a linchpin, and it's working fantastically well. There's a clear style now. And I think there's a clear rhetoric about how we want to move forwards. And if we're going to improve the squad like we did in 2021, in 2022, then yes, Afsar, we can handle Champions League football without a shadow of a doubt. And if you see people turning around and going, there's no point being in the Champions League, you can turn to go do one, because there absolutely is. More money for the club. Opportunity to, the first one is the opportunity to win the competition. That's the primary. Every club that goes into that competition has a chance to win it. And sometimes you get things like Spurs get into a final, Ajax get into a semi-final, Leipzig get into a semi-final. There are teams that can get Chelsea winning it in the first time they won it. Poor teams, or not poor, but teams that you wouldn't expect to get as far as they did can get there. It gives you a chance to win the Champions League. I find it staggering that people turn around and say there's no point being in it, or what's the point in being in the Champions League? We'll go into that competition and try to win every single game without a shadow of a doubt. It's going to improve our standing. It's going to improve our attractiveness. It's going to improve how much money we get from it. It's going to improve the project moving forwards. It's going to make a lot of justification for choices in certain signings. It gives us so much more. There is no argument that stacks up to saying no to the Champions League at all. Sam, if you're happy and you know it, smash a like. Sam, top man. Much appreciate that, fella. And if you could drop a like on the video, I really would appreciate the support. We'll also be live tomorrow morning again at 8 a.m. to talk about the game in more detail too. Coop Dog says, what do you think Arteta has improved on the most this season? That's a really tough question because I think there's a lot of positives to come from this season. To be honest, I still look at the recruitment of the summer and say that's the biggest improvement. Because for year after year after year after year, Arsenal wasted money in the transfer window. Arsenal made bad decisions in the transfer market. But in the summer, our recruitment, and specifically the recruitment, not the sales department, but the recruitment under Arteta and Edu, was transformative and has put this team into a position where it is now, which is in 4th place. And that is directly linked to the players that we brought in and the decisions that we made and the way in which we ignored all of the stories about, James Maddison and the decision to bring in Ben White, despite everybody's apprehension about spending that amount of money. Tomiyasu on deadline day. How many people wanted Emerson? I know I did. I know I sat here and said that I thought Emerson would have been a better choice than Tomiyasu, but he's been great. He's been absolutely fantastic. And we've improved this squad under Arteta, who brought in Ramsdale and brought in Gabriel and brought in Partey. The squad, compared to what it was in 2020, is just so different. And Arteta is at the heart of those choices. So I still think I look back at the summer. If you want to talk about on-field stuff, I think it's the development of a coherent style that you can see. You can clearly see what this Arsenal side are trying to do. If you can't, watch back games, watch it more, watch back the highlights if you want to. You can clearly see what's going on. I think maybe there's a little bit of ignorance out there sometimes, especially if you're not the biggest fan of Arteta, to not wanting to see the style, but it's so coherently there. The structure of the team, the way in which we attack the wide areas, the overlapping in those positions, the way in which Tierney gets so far up the pitch, and he isn't doing it so successfully, to be fair. Tierney's dipped of late, and it's worth saying that because he has dipped, and I think that has hamstrung the left-hand side. But our right-hand side's been so good. Saka and Ødegaard in particular have been absolutely fantastic. Virash says, Partey shooting was under the bar today. No rockets. Still not very good, though, unfortunately. But he's getting closer. At least we're getting closer. Julian says, Tom, do you think the Premier League is now way ahead of other leagues? Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's way ahead of Liga, La Liga, Serie A. Premier League is far and away the biggest league. And this is coming from someone that really used to argue that La Liga was bigger. And it was at a time. I thought it was a better league than the Premier League a fair few years ago. But the Premier League has overtaken it by a long distance since then. So, Reggie says, yes, people, the goal is to win all competitions, but you have to walk before you can run. And no top player will come to Arsenal without Champions League. Not entirely true, but I do see where you're coming from, Reggie. I do think you can actually run before you can walk, and there's an element of that happening this season. We're getting into a position where we're trying to get to the Champions League. I don't think many people expected that to happen, and I think we are taking 2 steps forward rather than just the 1 step, and that's a really good sign as well. Greg, thank you so much, mate, for the super chat. It's really kind. Greg is one of our most committed subscribers, comments non-stop on so many videos, and I do read through, and I feel bad that I can't always respond to all the comments, but thank you, Greg, for the continued support, and I know you're a long-time listener of the channel, and I do really appreciate it, mate, so thank you so much. Omar, would you take Pogba if it means bringing Haaland under Mino Raiola? Are you asking me if I'd bring in Pogba and Haaland to Arsenal? I mean, surely who turns that down? They're 2 really, really good players. Why would you turn those 2 down? I don't know. Maybe people would, but I think Pogba and Haaland are definitely players that would improve us. Ace Lucas says, I saw Rory, someone. Oh, I know who you mean. Rory, who does True Geordie, right? I can't remember his surname, but Rory, yeah? From months ago, asking, have Arsenal wasted 130 million? Hey, look, I think I remember Jamie O'Hara on TalkSport saying that Arsenal have spent 150 million on a B team. Do you remember that? Definitely said it. You'll definitely be able to find it on TalkSport's Twitter feeds if you try. Some people have massively underestimated this team. Peter says, Tom, Champions League is part of the process. Getting there is 1 step towards taking us back to being one of the best teams in the Premier League and then Europe. Absolutely. Andy says, Tom, do you think that Cedric was our best defender? No, I thought Gabriel was our best defender today, personally. I rated his performance higher than Cedric's. I thought Cedric's second half was actually a little bit lackluster. First half was much, much better. Marcus says, is clipping heels not an offence? Was when we did it, so why not for Lacazette? Hey, you don't have to convince me, mate. I absolutely agree with you. South London's Finest B says, Tom, you can only choose one. Yuri Tillemans, Gravenberch, or Ruiz. What one and why? Gravenberch, because I think he's probably going to be one of the best centre midfielders in the world and is already good enough that would add plenty of quality to the team. So I'd choose Gravenberch, followed by Ruiz, followed by Tillemans is what I would pick. Leao or Osimhen up front next season. Leao's probably going to sign a new deal at Milan's, and he's more of a wide forward than a striker. So I would choose Osimhen over Leao. Pinny says, was Ramsdale bad today, or was I just too nervous to see the goods? No, his distribution wasn't good. Look, if a keeper's bad, you're probably looking at their performance and saying they had a really bad time between the sticks and their distribution was bad. I think just his distribution was bad. I thought he dealt with some shots really well. The goals that he conceded, I think, you'd be ultra critical if you were blaming him for the 2 goals. The Sissoko one, there's an argument that yes, but I think Sissoko just finishes it really, really well, to be honest. So I don't have too many issues about the goalkeeping. The distributing is what I have an issue with. Jordan says, Odegaard for captain, then get him to convince Haaland to come to the Gunners. We can hope, right? We can hope. It's a hell of a hope, but sure, we can hope. Omar says, 5 years to the day since we was last in the Champions League tomorrow. The less said about how that game went, the better. Yeah, look, we've got unfinished business in that competition, and I have no doubt now, because I didn't at the end of last season, and I didn't after Manchester City, but I have no doubts now that Mikel Arteta is the person to take us back to the Champions League. I've not always been on the train. You guys very much know, and we're very fluid with our opinions here, and we change based upon when the evidence presents itself, and that's fine. We always maintain that. This is a place where you can change your mind about things, and Arteta has changed my mind this season. That is for sure. Napoli will ask for 80 million for Osimhen. I heard it was 70 million euros, Latvian Gooner. I heard that from Football Italia, so that's what I thought it was. I may be wrong, but that's what I thought it was. Arsenal Granny says, Gabriel looks a little shaky today. Ben, much more in control. That's really interesting because I completely saw it the other way around. It's funny how people have different points of view from watching the same game. Alex says, it is so weird to be excited about Arsenal again after years and years of mediocrity. Couldn't have put it better myself. Marcus says, Odegaard pulling Partey away after an incident, captain in waiting. Riley says, let's say we get fourth and sign Joao Felix. What striker to complement him? Patrick Schick would be my choice. Jason says, if we do get top 4 this season, the papers and ITKs will have a field trip during the summer transfer window. And I can't wait because I love the transfer window. So I look forward to that, Jason, if that is indeed what happens, because I look forward to the transfer window. Some people hate it. I kind of love it until about a few weeks before the end. Then I'm really done with it. But I love the transfer window. And that's why we do a show every single day at 8 a.m. talking about it. So thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We're going to wrap the show up there. Please drop a like on the video before you go. It takes you just a second and it really does help out the channel and gets it to more people. We're really pushing to try and get to 40k next season. That's going to be the target. So if you could show some support in the chat box, I really, really would appreciate it. Yeah, more shows for me, Josh. You're absolutely right. Transfer window is the one for those types of things. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in as always. I will see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. as always. And yeah, have a great evening. Up the Arsenal. Get in there. Top 4. Brilliant stuff. Yeah, we're done. I don't know where I'm going with this. Just up the Arsenal, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.